Hey everybody, my name is Lisa. I am the Crafty Goddess. Hello and welcome. I'll spare you the "it's been a while" spiel. I know I've been busy, and I will do an update video for that at a later time, probably wearing the same thing, and as usual, I'm adjusting the camera as I go. Uh, I'll do an explanation in a future video, but I might be wearing the same thing, so just pretend that I'm doing it another day. Anyway, I have been called out of my, shall we say, impromptu hiatus. I've been busy the past few months, like incredibly crazy, stupid busy. But again, that'll be explained in a later date. But I have been called out of my impromptu hiatus recently. Fiber Spider did a video of answering the call for the top 10 music playlist and a question and answer about crochet. I'm not sure if Crystal at Bago Day initially did it, like if she started it, or if it was something that preceded her and she just picked it up and ran with it. But either way, Fiber Spider was tagged along the way by Vanessa at Infinitely Zero, and tagged me in his recent video that came out a few days ago. So Craig, if you're watching, thank you so much for tagging me and thinking about me. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to agree with you with in regards to your comments about the top 10 music playlist. It is like choosing your, it's like picking your favorite children. It was very much like picking my 10 favorite children and then leaving a whole bunch by the wayside, because I just, oh man. Okay. The last 3 months I've been on work placements as part of my personal support worker program, certification program, and I've been working in long-term care and hospice centers and have seen more than my fair share of challenges and dealing with people at their most frail and vulnerable. This was a challenge. This bloody playlist was a challenge, trying to pick 10. Now, my musical tastes have always been all over the map, and I place that responsibility on my mom. She always had a very broad musical horizon, and I'm pretty sure my sister and I inherited that naturally. So it was hard to narrow it down to 10. There were no specific order. There are songs that may change with the artist. The list of runner-ups is longer than the top 10. So it's not a permanent top 10. It's a constantly evolving process. I've always listened to music. It's always been a source of refuge and comfort, and can boost your spirits, can match your spirits. I could wax poetic about this all day long, and I fear that my neurodivergence may come out to play with some of these choices and why I picked them. And yeah, I'm constantly fanning myself here. It is harder than the devil's armpit right now. I could pick another appendage, but I'm going to try and keep it PG. We're here in southwestern Ontario. It is the first major heat wave of the summer. Like, we're only a few days into summer, and I'm done already. I am just absolutely I'm over it. I don't want to deal with this. So again, my apologies for the din in the background. That is my window AC unit trying to pump some cool air into my top floor apartment. Oh my gosh, it's pretty sweaty, and I'm sticking to everything. And of course, with animals running around, I'm constantly covered in a thin layer of fur. So if this din is a little too much, then I apologize. I just hit mute and hit the closed caption, because I can understand how much of a bother this background noise can be, especially for folks with misophonia. So anyway, enough preamble. I've rambled enough already. This, as I said, was quite the challenge. So to the fiber spider, to the spider who yields the fiber, honey, this was a tall order. But again, I'm grateful that you tagged me. So I am hoping that this can somewhat encapsulate my broad musical horizons. So here we go. My first selection, not necessarily number one, but it is in my top tier of songs I will never get sick of, and I love, and will always take me to a special place. It is a song called Out of the Blue by Roxy Music. This was a song that was on their album Country Life that came out in, I believe, 1974. So this is where my neurodivergence comes up to play. There's a story behind this lifelong love of Roxy Music. As told to me, the details may be a little hazy. If my sister's watching, please feel free to correct me in the comments. So the album came out, I think, in 1974. When, so around that time, I think it was just after the album came out, my dad went to a house party when I was like 4 or 5 years old. I don't know if this was before or after my sister was born. I have no idea. But, you know, my dad decided to go off to a house party. Shall we say there was sharing of mind-altering substances, okay? Early 70s here. Somebody put on the album Country Life, and my dad was just blown away, like, wow, this is one of the coolest things I've ever heard. So he went out the next day and bought the album, and according to my mom, she loved it so much that she played it to death, and my dad got sick of it rather quickly. If anybody's not familiar with Roxy Music, they were one of those art rock bands that came out in the early 70s. And even members of Duran Duran said this: if it wasn't for bands like Roxy Music, Duran Duran would not exist. In fact, when Roxy Music was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame about 3 or 4 years ago, when the announcement was made that they were being inducted, I remember saying to my husband, if it's anybody but somebody in Duran Duran that's inducting them, I will riot. And for the ceremony itself, it was Simon Le Bon and John Taylor who specifically stated in their speech that if it wasn't for Roxy Music, they wouldn't have a musical career at all. So this album was one of my favorites. I still have my mom's vinyl copy of it, like the original pressing. But the copy I have, for those who are familiar with Roxy Music, you've probably seen like the beautiful scantily clad ladies on the covers of their albums. And the copy of Country Life that I got, or that my mom got, did not have the women on the front cover. It was just a bunch of pine trees. So I don't know if that was released afterwards because, you know, somebody protested seeing two scantily clad women standing in the middle of a forest wearing lacy negligees and, you know, lingerie and whatnot. In fact, I remember seeing it when I'm pretty sure it was the original cover that had the women in front. I remember saying at all 4 years old, why are they standing in the middle of the forest wearing their underwear? Aren't they cold? But yeah, that song's always stuck with me. And when I saw Roxy Music, when they were doing their 50th anniversary tour in the fall of 2022, the first stop of that tour was in Toronto at the, I still call it the Air Canada Centre. It's now called the Scotiabank Centre. My bestie Beth and I went down to see them, and the second song on the set was Out of the Blue, and it's a good thing I was already sitting down because I would have been knocked right on my butt. I was just so happy. I was pretty much spent the whole night just swooning like, you know, like crazy. But yeah, so that's number one. Okay, I'm rambling. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry, but whatever. The second selection I made is by Duran Duran, speaking of, and it's a song called Anniversary, which came out on their album Future Past, which was released in 2021. The interesting thing about, see, with Duran Duran, they have such a catalog of music. I know I could have picked something earlier, like, say, the song Friends of Mine from their first album, or New Religion from Rio. They have such a, sorry, I'm sticking to my chair. They have such a vast catalog of music, even with the side projects like Arcadia and Power Station, whatnot. So, I mean, it was hard to pick a song, but this song, for me, even though it was a little bit more recent, 4 years ago, it has meaning for me because they released the single Anniversary on the same day that my husband and I were celebrating our wedding anniversary, which is September 1st. So it was very cool to see that and have that song come out. And the lyrics, of course, is more about the band and how they've, you know, continued over time. But for me, when it came out on September 1st, I just thought that was a nice little touch. And then when I saw them in 2022, I saw Duran Duran in Toronto at the Budweiser stage, and it was with Paul, my husband, my sister Sarah, my bestie Beth. So I basically saw like my favorite band with my favorite people. It was just an amazing, and it rained cats and dogs that night. Oh my God, there was threats of a thunderstorm because, you know, Toronto's right on the coast of Lake Ontario, and there were thunderstorms rolling in, and they were making announcements like if it, because it started raining, and they said, you know, possible thunder showers, whatever, and if they were having lightning storms, they were going to call the concert off and cancel it while we were there. I was ready to just throw hands because I was not impressed. But the show went on as normal. Crisis was averted, and they did play Anniversary in their set. I was so happy. I was singing along all the songs and dancing along and just having a grand old time. It was wonderful. Sorry, I gotta take a drink. All right. Yeah, I would say Duran Duran is in my top favorite bands ever. Their music really brought a lot of light and positivity to, shall we say, some darker stuff that I went through when I was a kid. So it was like a refuge. It was an escape, and I'm very grateful for it. The third selection on my list, is a classical number. It is Piano Trio Number 2 in E flat major by Franz Schubert. Now, this is going to tie in a little bit with Fiber Spider's top 10 list. He mentioned the song Bela Lugosi's Dead by Bauhaus, which is just goes after my black little heart like nobody's business. Just, He mentioned in his video talking about how you saw Peter Murphy performing it at the opening sequence to the movie The Hunger, which is one of my absolute favorite movies. I mean, David Bowie and Catherine Deneuve as vampires. Oh my gosh. Great movie, directed by the late, great Tony Scott. Just an absolute visual feast. Wonderful. I've read the book. I would say the book is slightly better, but the movie was just stunning. Anyway, this piece, the Piano Trio Number 2 in E flat major, it's been used for other movies. I believe it was also used in the Stanley Kubrick movie, Barry Lyndon, but it was used in The Hunger as well, in the closing sequence of the movie where you see it at the very end. I'm not going to spoil it for you. Go watch it if you can. Like, there's not too much gore. There's a little bit of bloodshed, but I mean, it's not as gory, disgusting. There's some nudity, there's some adult situations, but it stands the test of time as one of my favorite movies. And this piece, it's moody, it's quiet, it's just gorgeous. It tells a story, and it definitely it adds to the story at the end of the movie. As I said, it's been used in other movies, but it's always been a piece that has resonated with me. I don't know if anybody can hear the Dark Academia soundtrack I've got going on in the background over the noise of the air conditioning, but I consider this piece to be incredibly Dark Academia, which I love. Number 4, speaking of classical pieces used in movies, number 4 is another classical piece. Oh my God, the heat's warping my brain. It's O Fortuna by Karl Orff from Carmina Burana. If you know, you know. It is a very powerful piece. It has a very strong opening, then it gets quiet, and then it builds up to quite the crescendo, and it just climaxes like crazy. This piece of music has been used in just about everything. It was actually used in the beginning sequence of, I believe, the first Jackass movie, which I was like, what? Why? It was also used in a scene from the movie The Doors, where you see Jim frolicking around with the pagan priestess Patricia Keneally, and it added to that scene quite deliciously. Just absolutely wonderful. As I said, the piece of music is quite the mood, and it kind of appeals to my black little, aging goth heart, in that there was a version released that featured some pretty heavy techno music to it, which I think complemented the piece quite wonderfully. It kind of brings me back, both this and the revamped, see what I did there? To both versions, like the dancey version and the, original. It brings me back to several nights where I was doing the goth club hopping in the 90s, and dancing my butt off. sweating it out through the fishnet and layers of PVC. Just, yeah, absolutely beautiful. Love it. Shush, I'm over here. Don't mind her, my kitty. I don't know why she's singing the song of her people. I'm right here. The fifth selection I've made, we mentioned David Bowie earlier. It is one of my absolute favorite songs of his. And this is actually a song that I would want played at my funeral. It is the song Time, and it is from the Aladdin Sane album. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this, but it's, you know, might as well clear laundry. So growing up, you know, you hear stories of kids that like they would, you know, use their hairbrush as a microphone and pretend they were rock stars singing into the mirror or their, you know, imaginary masses of thousands of fans, and singing along to their favorite music, whatever. The album Aladdin Sane was my singing into my hairbrush as a microphone album. So not that I grew up to become a famous pop star by any means, but that album really resonates. Like, as much as I love Ziggy Stardust, Aladdin Sane came pretty much right off its heels, and some would say that it was almost a continuation of Ziggy Stardust. It definitely had that mood, right in the, you know, apex of glam rock, and well, I should say glitter rock, but same thing, different names. It even influenced one of my tattoos. I can't really show it off too much, but okay. You'll have to see it upside down. Okay, there we go. The iconic red and blue lightning bolt. A lot of people see that and go, "Oh, Ziggy Stardust." Aladdin Sane, that was the album artwork, where it's just the face, the lightning bolt on his face, and that's where it came from. Although it's like the same era, so it inspired one of my tattoos. This is actually an amalgamation of two of my favorite Bowie albums: Aladdin Sane, the lightning bolt here, and Black Star, which is the star in the writing on the wrist. So there's a story behind that tattoo as well, but I'll save it for another day. But that song is just so powerful and amazing. The first time I saw Bowie was in 1987 at the C&E Stadium when he was touring in support of the Glass Spider tour, for the supporting his album Never Let Me Down, I should say. And Time was the first song that he performed when he came back from, like, first song of the encore, basically. Just there is a clip of it on YouTube. My God. But the video clip is from the show that he did, I believe, in Australia. But just look up David Bowie, Time, Glass Spider. You'll see pretty much what I saw when I was all of 16 years old and freaking out because I was seeing like my favorite iconic rock star. David Bowie, to me, I've said this before, he is to me what Freddie Mercury is to Crystal at Bag O'Day Crochet. His music has always meant so much to me. It was like a refuge. It was a source of comfort. He was a beacon to all the freaks and misfits that couldn't fit in. Yeah, he went through like his clean phase in the 80s and was all like polished and, you know, beautiful and smiling. I mean, he was always beautiful, let's face it. But to me, he always had that eccentricity to him that was absolutely undeniable. If anybody's ever watched the movie Labyrinth, I think that was definitely a hearkening to his earlier work. Absolutely loved him. And I'll never forget when the news came of his death. My phone was just going off like crazy. I was getting all these notifications and whatnot, and texting like, "Hey, did you hear David Bowie died?" And I'm like, what? No. Like, this was in 2016 and like the height of celebrity death hoaxes. So I looked it up and like, he didn't die. I'm just gonna like type it in, whatever. And next thing I know, it was just coming up like news source after news source, BBC, CNN, CBC, bang, 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 like that he passed. So it was 3 in the morning. I rolled over and kind of poked my husband away and said, "Honey, David Bowie died." And I won't repeat what my husband said exactly, but it was very sad. Yes, he was 69. Yes, it was cancer, which nobody knew about until he passed, which to me screams volumes of the amount of trust that he put into the people around him who he could trust with that secret. I could say several things about cancer and how much I dislike it, but I've been, you know, just blabbering long enough. But yeah, Time by David Bowie. I want that played at my funeral. Hopefully it doesn't come soon, but my 6th selection is a song called Breathing by Kate Bush. I'm going to try and put YouTube or what do you call them, links to all the songs there as much as possible. I'll try and do that in the description anyway. But shoot, I shook that. I'm sorry. Kate Bush, again, going with the more eccentric music that we listen to. I shouldn't say we listened to in the 80s, that I listened to in the 80s. As I said, my musical tastes have always been very eclectic. Like, you know, being 4 years old and running around listening to Roxy music, you know, a lot of kids were listening to like Fisher Price or Sally Go Around the Sun, whatever, which I did too. But I also listened to albums like Autobahn by Kraftwerk and Overnight Sensation by Frank Zappa. So Kate Bush wasn't exactly, you know, foreign material, but at the same time, her music was just so amazing and experimental. I think she actually hates being called experimental, but I would, no, that's Laurie Anderson. Sorry, my bad. Her music was definitely groundbreaking in that it just encompassed all, you know, it broke down barriers, it broke down borders. She did what she wanted. I mean, her first album, which included Wuthering Heights, which I know people are like, why didn't you include that? I love that song, but I love Breathing More. You know, she was 17 years old and enlisted the help of a family friend. That family friend being David Gilmour from Pink Floyd, for Christ's sakes. He saw her at all of 17 with this huge amount of talent and said, I need to work with this, and helped produce her first album. So that should speak volumes as to how amazing and staggering her talent is. And I am still kicking myself to this day for missing the show she did in Toronto about, I think, 2-3 years ago. The tickets were sold out in like a nanosecond anyway, but still, I would have loved to have seen her, because she does not, I think she's only toured like maybe 5 times in the past 30 years or so, but if that. But Breathing is such a beautiful song. Watching the video too, like it's apparent that it's about, you know, the connection between like a mother and an unborn baby, which has always kind of hit a sore spot with me with my fertility challenges. But it's such a beautiful, moving, amazing song. I highly recommend it. If you haven't checked into Kate Bush, I know a lot of folks got exposed to her through Stranger Things, especially with the song Running Up That Hill. Hounds of Love is one of my favorite albums, by the way. So, I mean, if that's sort of a taste for some folks, just keep digging, because she's just wonderful. I've expounded enough. Next. My next selection is from an artist named Devin Townsend, and the song is called Lightworker. Again, with somebody this incredibly talented, he's got such a huge musical base. For those who aren't familiar with Devin Townsend, he is an incredibly intelligent, amazing, talented musician from Vancouver. Well, Maple Ridge to be more specific, but I digress. A lot of people first heard of Devin Townsend in 1991. I could be wrong. If my husband watches this, please correct me in the comments. He was handpicked by Steve Vai to be the vocalist for his album Sex and Religion, and he's actually featured on the cover art, shirtless with various arrows kind of stapled to his chest like Saint Sebastian. And even then, like, I knew it was funny because I remember reading the description how Steve Vai was working with this brash young singer from Vancouver. Just, you know, that was my first taste of him, and he's always had quite the powerful vocal range to begin with. But seeing him come into his own as a musician when he started doing stuff with Strapping Young Lad, and then working on other projects like Ocean Machine, the album Biomech is one of my Desert Island discs, and I heavily recommend it. If anybody has any inkling towards like hard rock or metal, it's such a gorgeous, gorgeous piece of work. But Lightworker specifically, that came from the album Lightwork that was released in 2022. I could be wrong. But it means a lot to me lyrically because the first 2 lines of the song is, may your heart be filled with love. May your mind be strong enough, be strong. Oh my God, the heat has warped my brains. I'm going to have to look this up later. But it really came into focus for me when I started going through my cancer treatments in 2023. And around round 4, I was just like, that's it. I don't want to do this anymore. I could fully understand why some folks opt out of chemo as part of their cancer treatments, because it was living hell on earth. It really was. But for some reason, that song started showing up more and more in my YouTube search feed. So I started listening to it, and just the lyrics just jumped out and smacked me in the face, and it really hit home for me. So it really stuck with me. I actually had the pleasure of seeing Devin Townsend about a month ago in Toronto. He was playing the Queen Elizabeth Theatre with a band called Tesseract. Lovely, gorgeous metal band from England. They're just so phenomenal. But Devin, he's doing this mini tour of North America because he's taking a break, and deservedly so, because he's been touring his ass off for, oh God, how many decades now? But Like Worker was the, I want to say, third or fourth song into the set. My husband and I and our friend Adam, we went and we got right up to the very front, like we were right up against the guardrail. But we weren't getting crushed, which was nice. It was great being at a show where I was up against the guardrail and I wasn't being squished. That song always, it's gorgeous, it's sweeping, it's got peaks and valleys. I heavily recommend it. I realize some of these songs may be a little heavier for some folks watching my channel, so just forewarned. But yeah, if you haven't heard of the musical genius that is Devin Townsend, I heavily recommend it. I've been recommending a lot of these anyway. If they weren't on my list, they wouldn't be. Number 8, and it's kind of funny actually, because there's a lot of, when I started making my list, as you can see, there's like a lot of scribbles and things, and I had to replace and sort of switch around and like put songs that really meant something to me, and like, not saying that music doesn't mean something to me, but ones that I felt deserve more importance than others. And yeah, my honorable mention list is much longer. I'll read off some later, but this next selection is from a band that was originally called Manhole, but they had to change their name because of another band that claimed copyright, whatever, so they changed their name to Tura Satana, and the song was called Put Your Head Out. It's from their first album that came out called All Is Not Well, and it was re-released. They re-released the album under the name Tura Satana, which I thought was kind of funny. It's like, okay, so we're going to get challenged by some band from Texas that 5 people have heard of. Fine, screw you. We're going to change our name and name ourselves after the lead actress from the Russ Myers movie Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. The lead vocalist, Terry B. Murphy, very strong, very forward, very assertive, if not outright aggressive in her lyrical delivery. She started out as a rap artist. In fact, she was the first female rap artist to be signed onto Eazy-E's label back in the 80s. She had an album out called Murder, She Wrote, which I loved. As I said, my musical tastes are all over the place, but seeing her with Manhole / Tura Satana, they were part of, I want to say they were part of the nu metal emergence of the mid to late 90s. But I think they were kind of lumped in because of the aggressiveness of their music. And as I said, with Terry, she's a rapper, so she rapped over this like heavy music, but her lyrics definitely delivered a message. The song Put Your Head Out is basically a call to arms for folks who support abortion and abortion rights, more specifically women's reproductive rights. And I'm not saying this to open up any discourse or disagreement. Woman's body is her choice. That's where I stand, and I won't entertain any further discussions. It's, I believe every woman should have the choice to do what she wants with her body and not have these decisions put in the hands of folks who, want to take those rights away. But that's me. That's as inflammatory as I'm going to get. Well, I don't know if it's inflammatory, but, the song is basically a stand, taking a stand in favor of women's rights. So I realize this also might have me lose a few followers and subscribers. I would rather stand in my truth and, rather than placate everyone just because. But that's me. I'm getting a little more firm in that in my old age, to be honest. But it is a very powerful song. It's an anthem. I love it. We will continue on. because I realize this is almost half an hour now. The next selection, my second to last selection on this list, is a song by Nick Cave, and it's called Red Right Hand. I know it's kind of a stereotypical choice because it's one of the most well-known Nick Cave songs, but it's carried through the ages for me. It's always had that deep, dark, sinister sound to it. Again, goes after my, aging goth little heart. And I was so pleased when I was first made aware of a TV series called Peaky Blinders that was used as the theme for the first, I'm going to say for the first few seasons anyway. I still haven't finished season 6 yet, but it really struck me as like, okay, this is perfect. This is a series about a family whose the main character survived like the First World War. It's in post-World War I Birmingham, and this, I gotta say, mob family basically struggling to assert themselves in a world that feels very uncertain after this, earth-shattering event. If you haven't seen Peaky Blinders yet, I advise you to binge it on Netflix. I love it. Hello, kitten. Sorry, I'm distracted by kitties. Pretty. Do you want to say hi? No? Fine. But Red Right Hand has always been such a favorite song of mine. And Nick Cave, my God, just such a storyteller. Again, it's one of those instances where I'm a little ticked that I didn't get to see him in Toronto. He toured, I want to say about 2 or 3 years ago, and I really wanted to go see him, but it was just a matter of like money and logistics. Could we make the show? Unfortunately not, but always been one of my favorites. And the last selection, again, it was quite the feat trying to condense this to a top 10 list, but it's a song from the band Korn, and the song is called Trash. And again, it's one of those musical groups that have such a wide catalog, such an amazing selection of music. They've got so many albums out, and have definitely weathered the test of time. I've been a fan since the first album. There's something, angsty about their music, but, instead of, holding on to that angst, the music served as a release for me to get it out of my system, to process it. Listening to some of the lyrics that Jonathan Davis wrote and sung, thinking, okay, there's somebody else out there who had a bit of a messed up upbringing and is trying to exercise it in a more conducive way. And that sort of made me a diehard fan. The song Trash in particular is from their album Untouchables. I can't remember what year it came out. I want to say 2000, but I'm probably wrong. The song is basically, to me, my interpretation is, somebody who has a very poor self-esteem, and there's somebody in their life who is just like light and joy and help and wants to, help them conquer the darkness. And the song is basically saying, why are you sticking around? I am an absolute piece of crap. Why do you want any of this? This is, But, and I've had that inner dialogue for a while. I even have it to this day sometimes with my husband. It's like, what I've been through and the things that I've done to myself. Full disclosure, I'm a recovering alcoholic and drug addict, and engaged in some pretty terrible coping mechanisms when I was a kid. And, well, there were coping mechanisms that became self-punishment measures. And, sometimes to this day, it's like I have these arguments in my head, like, I'm damaged goods. Why do you want any part of this? Of course, now I am doing the work to become something better than damaged goods and rise above that. But the song Trash has always resonated with me, and it's got such a solid, heavy, bass, chunky vibe to it. It's so great to hear that live. The last time I saw them was about 10 years ago. They didn't play it at that show, but the one before it that I saw them, they did. They've always been one of my favorite bands, and that song has always stood out to me the most. So that's my top 10. Some of the honorable mentions are songs like Cosmic Debris by Frank Zappa, which I think is relevant to this day. It's sort of a biting commentary on, people who call themselves psychics and mediums and that sort of thing, which I love. There's a line in it that says something like, is that a real poncho or is that a Sears poncho? But I think Sears can be intertwined with Temu at this point. Song from a Canadian artist named Biff Naked, Daddy's Getting Married. A song by another like pro-feminist artist, OTAP, Fistfall, which is like a sort of an anthem for LGBTQ folks to sort of stand up and fight back type of thing. Sun Doesn't Rise by Mushroom Head. The list goes on. I could be here all day. In fact, it probably feels like I've been here all day just listening to me ramble. Am I right? But yeah, like I said, these things will change, but I applaud Craig for putting me to task with this. It wasn't an easy choice. Oh my gosh. It was like picking my 10 favorite children, but you know, songs will evolve and I might pick other favorites from other artists. Anyway, hang on a second. So, now for part 2. There's a little question and answer thing for folks who crochet. And again, this one's a little bit, I didn't write down the answers to these because I thought, you know, I'll just wing it. I'll try to keep it as short as possible, but because I'm not, I don't crochet as much as I knit. Like my crochet is very, you know, limited. I do some hats, I do some, you know, shawls. I basically learned to crochet so I could learn how to make really cool, like meshy shawls and whatnot. But anyway, if my sister's watching this, I want to see if, excuse me, if she would be willing to do a video with me where she answers these questions. If not, that's okay. But because she crochets full time, well, I'm going to say full time, she doesn't knit, she just crochets. I would like to see what her answers are to this questionnaire. Anyway, number 1, how did you learn how to crochet? So when I turned 40, I had sort of like a crochet, like introduction to crochet party. It wasn't really a big party. It was just like me, myself, my sister, my mom, and then like another friend at a yarn shop here in Guelph that unfortunately no longer exists. But it was sort of like an intro to learn how, like, to do the basic chaining and you know, single crochet, double crochet, da 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 da. You know, how to hold the hook properly, how to hold the yarn tension, etc. I didn't stick with it after that because, like I said, I knit more. Most people I find that, you know, they'll focus more on one, but maybe dabble a little bit in the other, if at all. So I didn't stick with it. But then 2020, the pandemic roared to life, and my husband and I were laid off for several weeks. And coincidentally, that's when I started doing videos. But I started watching a lot of video tutorials. Like the one morning, I just thought, you know, I got to learn how to crochet. Because I learned years ago, and I'm sure it can't be that hard. And I was even actually having dreams of holding crochet hooks and doing granny squares. So I thought, okay, let's put this to practice. And I first watched a video from Bella Coco how to do like a basic granny square, because I figure if you can do a basic granny square, that's got it's got double crochet stitches, chains, whatnot, slip stitches. You know, it came a little easier. My tension still sucks. I don't hold the crochet hook properly. Sometimes I hold it like a pencil, sometimes I hold it like a knife. Most of the time I hold it like a knife, especially if I'm working on something in the round or if the yarn is really bulky. But I learned more through the 2020 pandemic, or should I say, I got quite the refresher. I watched folks like Fiber Spider, like Bella Coco, Hooked by Robin, Jada and Stitches. I was advised to start watching Mikey at the Crochet Crowd, which I still do. I followed some of his tutorials on a few things, and it just kind of exploded from there. I started watching Crystal at Bag O' Day. A lot of these folks that I mentioned have some excellent tutorials for different projects that I was able to follow. I'm more of a visual learner, so that's where I learned to, I don't want to say refine my skills, but, you know, get a little bit better at it. So I would say the bulk of my learning came in like spring, summer 2020 by watching YouTube tutorials. What's your favorite thing to crochet? I think I gave it away already. I love doing shawls, especially mesh shawls, because to me they always look so complicated, and some of them do. Some of them are complicated. There was I think a multi-part tutorial that Bag O Day released of this one shawl. Oh gosh, I can't even remember when it came out, but it was huge. It had a lot of like different like multi-level rows and things, and just I don't even remember the name of the tutorial, but it was just this gorgeous but time-intensive piece of work. Um, Maybe I'll step up to do that someday. We'll see. But I would definitely say shawls because they take a lot less time. Like I knit shawls too, but knitting takes more time but less yarn, whereas crochet takes less time, but I think uses up slightly more yarn, if that makes any sense. Just, a little bit, a little from column A, a little from column B, I guess. If you could only use one yarn, what would it be? Oh, God. Okay, now are we talking one brand of yarn or one type of yarn? If it's a brand of yarn, I'm kind of hard pressed to pick between Lion Brand and Premier because both have several different types of yarns that are absolutely gorgeous to use. I've been using Lion Brand's 24/7 cotton for a lot of crochet bucket hats that I've been making up lately because, it's bucket hat season, I guess. And they're great for protecting my face against the sun. And Lion Brand has a lot of Lion Brand. And then Premier, I've been using, I think it's the Premier cotton. There's a worsted type of cotton that I just experimented with. They've also got oh my God, the name just escaped me. Middle-aged brain fog. What a pain in the butt. But both brands have so many variations of different types of yarn that are just so much fun to play with. I especially love Lion Brand ice cream. My sister will wax poetic till the cows come home about the Premier Chunky Parfait. That's what I believe she makes the majority of her stuffies out of. And they're so cute. They're so cute. But as far as one yarn, if I had to pick one yarn, one type of yarn from whatever, oh gosh, Lion Brand Heartland. They've got such an array of colorways that are just a feast for the eyes. And it's a worsted weight yarn. It's an acrylic yarn, so it's laundry friendly. And I've made several different projects from it. I've made wrist warmers. I've made stuffies. I've made hats. I've made ponchos, scarves. I haven't made a shawl from Heartland yet, but if I was relegated to just one yarn for the rest of my life, I would probably have to go with Lion Brand Heartland. Weirdest thing you've ever crocheted? As I mentioned, my crochet skills are quite limited, so I can't say I've crocheted anything weird. My sister could answer this for you, but the answer is not PG. So it was something that was featured in an adults-only surprise bag that she sold at Yule Market last year. And it actually specified on the bags or the rack, whatever, like 18 plus. There were a lot of kids that were looking at these surprise bags going, why can't I buy them? Let's just say that there were some liberties taken with, shall we say, anatomical correctedness. If you catch my drift, I can't really say because I don't want this channel to get a strike. And I can say the weirdest thing I've ever knit, like I wouldn't say I've crocheted anything weird, but I would say I've definitely knit something weird, kind of along those same lines. Long story short, a former coworker of mine at my former job, who is sadly no longer with us, kept teasing me whenever he saw me dating. He kept saying, so when are you going to make me something to keep his delicate body parts warm? And after days and weeks of this, I finally said, all right, challenge accepted. And I didn't have a pattern in mind. I just kind of winged it, based it on some tutorials for how to make stuffed animals, whatever, but shall we say left them open-ended. And because it was close to Christmas, I decided to use red, white, and green yarn and have it all striped to look like a candy cane. If that doesn't tell you everything, I can't help you. But yeah. Next question, where do you get your inspiration? From watching different YouTubers and different tutorials. I will hopefully, if and when the temperature decides to drop, which I'm hoping is sooner than later because I'm melting, I want to start working on a shawl tutorial that Juan the Yarn Addict recently posted. Again, I apologize. I should really write these things down before I turn the camera on because I cannot remember the name of it. But it's a shawl pattern that Juan recently did, and it's a 6-row repeat. It's 3 rows like a granny stitch, and then double crochet, windows or eyelets, whatever you want to call it, and then double crochet, and then the whole thing at the end of it, the last row is like a single crochet to sort of unify the entire thing. If you know what I'm talking about, please drop the name in the comments because I can't remember. But I'm really excited to get going on that when the weather is a little bit more conducive and the thought of handling heavy yarn doesn't make me break out into a sweat. I also get a lot of inspiration from my Pinterest scroll. I like to look through Pinterest for different ideas and whatnot. I want to make some simpler stuffies. I don't want to take over what my sister's doing. I just kind of want to experiment to see if I can do it. She said that making stuffies can be pretty intensive because you're using a hook smaller than the gauge that the yarn calls for, just to give it a tighter stitch and more of a uniformed look to the stuffy. We'll see. But yeah, just looking at different ideas on Pinterest and Instagram. There's a lot of stuff I see on Instagram as well, and a lot of, like I said, YouTube tutorials and things and whatnot. Yeah, I want to do that shawl from Juan. There's also another one that Crystal Bago Day put up about 4 or 5 months ago. Again, I apologize, I don't remember the name, but it's like a lacy pattern. So I don't know, I've got this thing for lacy shawls. I love them. Favorite thing you've made so far this year? I actually have it right here. It is the fishnet crescent shawl from Fiber Spider. I'm just going to hide the price tag here because I actually had it on sale for one of my shows and nobody bought it obviously, but it is the fishnet crescent shawl. His tutorial, he used, I believe it was Lion Brand Scarfie and a size 6.5 crochet hook. I did that with, now this one in particular, I usually do that one. I usually use Scarfie and 6.5 crochet hook. But this shawl in particular, okay, if we can hold still here. There we go. Gorgeous. This yarn is from Ice Yarns and it's called Fantasia. And it's a worsted, so it uses like a 5 crochet hook, which I think you use for that. I could probably go with a 6. The Fantasia yarn is 80% acrylic, 20% wool. But that colorway that I showed you, like the different shades of green, like the dark forest green, the acid green, no longer exists on the website. So I will say it is one of my favorite things to crochet, period. But that one, I've been wanting to see how that yarn in particular played out with that pattern. And it just looks gorgeous. It's, you know, very gothy, very creepy, very cute. I'm honestly genuinely surprised I didn't sell that at the last festival I did, but there'll be more, I'm sure. And usually closer to fall, like around the Halloween markets and the Yule markets, whatnot, I usually sell at least a few of them. So it's definitely one of my favorites, but I love doing that pattern because it's so easy, it's so much fun, and it looks like a spider web. It's really cool. Crochet plans you're excited about for the future. See, again, I don't do as much crochet as my sister does. Again, this is why I want to ask her if she would be interested in doing this questionnaire and we can film it for a future video. Personally, I am excited to be able to handle like a thicker yarn without sweating or having my hands get all sticky and clammy. I am excited about dipping my toes in and trying out the virus shawl, which I still haven't done. I know it's been around for years. I know it's probably not that hard to do, but it sounds like, you know, once you get the pattern down, it's easier to keep track of the stitches and where you're going. I am excited to receive some more crochet hooks from a couple of friends of mine. Their names are Chris and Marilyn. They co-run a cool little business called the Lady of the Lathe, where they make a lot of really fun woodworking projects. They also do glass etchings on like cups and metal etchings on goblets and whatnot. There's a variety of products they use, but a lot of it is very like natural materials based, like wood. And they do, what do you call them, like entrance mats, floor mats, that sort of thing, but they do like the etching into it, like the burning like different patterns. A lot of it is very, I don't want to say geek based because that just sounds so dismissive, but there are references in their works to, and quotes from things like Lord of the Rings and Doctor Who. Just check, I would say check them out, the Lady of the Lathe. You'll probably find them on Facebook. I'll drop connections down there as well. The reason I mention them is because Chris and Marilyn have started, well, Marilyn crochets as well. Last year at one of our hangouts, she was wearing a hexagon cardigan that she pulled together, which looked so cute. That's another one thing, that's something else I'm excited about making, is some more hexagon cardigans. I'm trying to finish up mine right now. I'm doing one out of the Karen Cloud Cakes using I can't remember the name of the colorway, but it looks like Dark Mermaid. It's got like teal, blue, black, lagoon, that's what it's called. But Chris and Marilyn are now dipping their toes into making crochet hooks. I've already been given one to sort of test run. It's a 5.5 using a wood base. I think it's called Wenge, W-E-N-G. It's very comparable to ebony, so it's lightweight, but it's got a good feel in the hand. They're going to be making a couple more for my sister and I to try out, just sort of experiment, play with, see how we like it. And so far, so good. It's been amazing. So I'm looking forward to playing with some more of their testing some more of their products, I should say. So I'm excited for that. Worst thing about crochet, oh God. I'm gonna go on a bit of a rant here, like I haven't already. It's like just under an hour. Oh my God. I cannot stand the level of elitism that some folks who crochet and some folks who knit stand up against each other, if that makes any sense. A friend of mine who crochets says she sees it more from knitters, and that's fair. I've seen it more from crochet folks. Like, you'll find more tutorials on YouTube for stuffies, crochet stuffies, than you will for knit stuffies. They do exist, but they're outnumbered by at least 1,000 to 1. I don't think that's anybody's fault. Maybe that's just like the algorithm. I don't know. But it just seems like both kind of have a bit of an attitude towards each other. I would say maybe more knitters, because specifically because here in southwestern Ontario, there's a yearly festival that takes place in Kitchener called the Kitchener-Waterloo KW Knitters Fair. Now, knitters aren't the only ones that play with yarn. Crocheters play with yarn. People who do tatting play with yarn, like crocheting and thing. There's so many other venues with which you can play with yarn, like needle felting, you name it. So, but there's also, you know, it's basically a market for a lot of local independent hand dyers, people who make accessories for knitting and crochet. I've seen folks that use a lot of reclaimed wood for projects like drop spindles and yarn bowls, etc. So it's something for everyone, regardless of what side of the fence you sit on. But the fact that the fence itself exists really bugs me, because I do both. And not just because I do both, but because I think it's really unfair to have that, you know, because you do one thing, it's all like, you know, I don't like that attitude. You do one thing, that's great, that's wonderful, but that doesn't give you the reason to take up some sort of imaginary precipice and look down on people who don't. And I have seen it from both sides. Like, I've been to knit and chat, and somebody brings a crochet project, and they get looked at like, what century are you from? Whatever. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like the elitism. But I wouldn't say it's about crochet specifically. I'd just say more like fiber things in general. Oh, that, and I know my sister would probably mention this. Somebody inventing a crochet pattern when when all they did was they took the original pattern and just made a couple of tweaks, and suddenly it's their pattern. I'll let her expand on that if she wants. Favorite thing about crochet? I love how portable it is. I love that I'm just bringing a hook and like a ball of yarn. There are different, I mean, it's the same thing with knitting though, but sometimes, you know, if you're working with like cable needles, sometimes the cables get a little tangled, whatever. So it's a minor nuisance, but whatever. I love that it does bring people together in terms of sharing ideas and inspiration. I love the crochet communities that I have been a part of here on YouTube. I love some of the folks that reach out with cool ideas to try out. I love how welcoming a lot of folks are as well. And if there's any, like, I've especially seen this with YouTubers that I follow here, if there's any sort of like drama or interpersonal BS or whatever, it's eliminated pretty quickly. I love that. Love that so much. But favorite thing about crocheting itself, yeah, I love that, you know, I can just tuck a hook into my bag and like a ball of yarn, and I can start working on a hat, or I can start working on like some sort of project, and just like boom, 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 done. Like I said, I could say the same thing for knitting, but just the portability of it, and how much fun it is too, and how meditative and soothing it is. And again, a lot of these are pretty similar, like with both knitting and crocheting. Like it's a repetitive gesture, but it really helps you focus. And for me personally, because I have anxiety, yeah, no kidding, it really helps bring things down and just is very soothing and meditative and tranquil. At least for me, sometimes. There's been a few patterns that I've worked on that I just wanted to throw the whole thing off the balcony, but have it here and there. All right, we are almost at the hour mark, and I have blathered enough. If you have made it this far, congratulations, and thank you so much. Feel free to click like and subscribe down here, and feel free to share this video as well. I could really use the boost with viewing hours. Well, I haven't been here in a few months. I could use all the help I can get. And here is my list of tags that I would like to send out to the YouTube universe. If you've already been tagged, my apologies. I haven't been here in a while. I've been busy. So I want to see Crystal, the Yarny Chicken Crazy Cat Lady. I want her answers to these lists. Dee's Creative Hands Crochet. Gary at Urban Yarn. Tori at Polly's Crochet Creations. Mama G Gear. Mama G is here, or it better be. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I would love to see her answers to this list, to both these lists actually, because I would love to hear Mama G's answers specifically to the music questions. I want to see. Oh gosh, there's a few others, but I can't think of it right now. Like I said, I'm gonna see if I can talk my sister into doing the answers for the crochet questions, and if she wants to do the music one too, that's fine. Oh gosh, if Juan the Yarn Addict hasn't been tagged yet, I would love to see his answers to both of these questionnaires. And the Naked Snail, that would be lovely. Connie at Just Another Stitch. Yeah, my shout out list is getting longer, isn't it? And if anybody else watched this and you feel like answering, Diane, my Pink Bathtub Knits, I want to see your replies to this. I know you're just a beginner crochet person as well. If you are comfortable answering that questionnaire, please feel free. If not, hey, I understand. I totally get it. She's cranking out socks like a champ right now, so that's awesome. But that's it. I think I'm gonna call it here because I've rambled on long enough, and it's getting sweaty, so I need to go rinse off in the shower. Thank you so much. If you like what you saw, please give this video a thumbs up. I appreciate all the positive feedback. As I said before, feel free to go down here and click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell too. It'll let you know when I post more videos, which will hopefully be a lot more frequent now. Also, please feel free to share this video however you choose. Spread the word and let the universe know I like to ramble for almost an hour. And yeah, feel free to comment down below if you want to get aboard this train, and let me know what some of the answers to these questions are that you have. In the meantime, I'm gonna get out of here, go, pour some cold fluids down my throat. Thank you so much. Take care, stay safe, and keep making cool stuff and stay cool. I'll hopefully talk to you folks very soon. All right, bye.